The research building at Westbridge University was usually a calm and predictable place. Most days passed quietly, with professors moving from one classroom to another and students hunched over computers typing their assignments. But something unusual was happening in the Human Motion Laboratory on the third floor. It began with a simple project, one that the research team never expected would grow into a discovery that would capture attention around the world. Dr. Lena Armitage, a respected expert in biomechanics, had recently received approval for a study on human balance and motion. Her plan was to analyze video clips of different dancers and athletes to understand how the body maintains stability during fast movements. The goal was harmless and academic. Help physical therapists and trainers improve their methods. She did not expect anything beyond routine findings. One afternoon, while reviewing potential subjects for the study, a graduate student named Omar suggested adding footage of Michael Jackson. He explained that Jackson's dancing was famous for its unusual precision and smoothness, and it could provide interesting data. The team agreed. After all, analyzing the movements of world-class performers often revealed useful details. They added a collection of high-quality videos showing Jackson performing his signature routines, moonwalks, spins, glides, and the gravity-defying lean. The lab used advanced motion capture software capable of tracking body movement frame by frame. Once the videos were uploaded, the software placed digital markers over Jackson's joints to map the exact path of every movement. At first, the researchers expected to see the same patterns they normally observed: shifting weight, predictable timing, and typical muscle responses that appear in most dancers. But something was different. It was the quiet graduate student, May, who first noticed it. She zoomed in on a segment of the software's motion graph and frowned at the strange shape of a curve. "Dr. Lena," she said softly, "can you come look at this?" Lena stepped over, expecting a simple error in the software. Instead, she saw something she had never encountered before. The graph showed an extraordinary level of balance control, so exact that it looked almost like a computer-generated pattern rather than a human motion. The timing between steps did not vary the way human movement usually does. Even the smallest movements were smooth, consistent, and mathematically repeatable. "This can't be right," Lena whispered. The team ran the analysis again, then again, and each time the software returned the same precise pattern. Jackson's movement displayed a rhythm that almost looked like an algorithm, an internal code guiding the motion like a hidden formula. The room filled with quiet excitement. They were all thinking the same thing but were afraid to say it out loud. Finally, Omar broke the silence. "Did Michael Jackson actually move like this?" "This is not normal. This is something else." Lena agreed, but she wanted to be careful. Scientific research required patience and verification. They needed to check if this unusual pattern appeared in other performers too. So they repeated the same analysis on videos of top dancers from different genres: ballet, hip-hop, contemporary, and even martial arts performers known for their fluid motion. None of them showed the same graph. Their movements were impressive, but still human. They showed natural shifts, irregularities, and micro-errors. But Michael Jackson's patterns were incredibly consistent, almost like he followed a coded sequence. His body seemed to know exactly where to go before the movement even began. The team gathered around the large screen where the motion tracking model displayed Jackson's body in digital form. Every move was highlighted with a thin, glowing line that traced the path of his joints. Watching it felt like watching a perfectly choreographed dance between mathematics and biology. They continued studying more videos. The results repeated. The same steady rhythm, the same micro-delays, in exactly the same places, the same balance adjustments that normal dancers could not perform without losing control. It was as if Jackson had discovered a unique way of moving that blended art with an unspoken understanding of physics. Excitement grew in the room, but so did curiosity. They needed answers. Why were these movements so precise? Were they intentional? Or had Jackson intuitively learned something about the body that science had not yet explained? Word quietly spread through the department, and soon other professors stopped by to watch the analysis. Some were skeptical at first, but the software displayed the data clearly. Jackson's movement was different. There were patterns in his spins, timing sequences in his footwork, and a remarkable ability to control weight transfer in ways that seemed impossible for most people. A visiting professor from Germany, known for his research on balance, watched the data with wide eyes. "This is not ordinary skill," he said. "This is a form of neuromuscular intelligence. He is using small muscles most people don't even activate purposefully." As more experts weighed in, the excitement in the lab shifted to amazement. They began to wonder if they had stumbled upon something bigger than a dance study. They ran deeper analyses, breaking down each movement into angles, acceleration, reaction time, and force distribution. The results were astonishing. Jackson's body maintained a state of dynamic equilibrium throughout his movements. Even during fast transitions, his center of gravity stayed within an incredibly narrow path, something extremely difficult to achieve. It looked as though he had trained his body to follow a hidden internal rule, a system so advanced that modern dancers had never adopted it. The more they studied, the more the idea grew. Michael Jackson had a movement algorithm. Not a literal written algorithm, of course, but a repeatable sequence of micro-movements and timing behaviors that worked together like a coded formula. It was present in the moonwalk, the lean, the glides, every technique he was known for. The team stayed late for several nights, their excitement pushing them forward. Each discovery led to new questions. Why did Jackson shift weight a fraction of a second before each large movement? How did he maintain perfect posture even when leaning off-center? How did he distribute his steps with such clean geometry? As they examined more footage, they began to see the algorithm everywhere. News of the unusual findings reached the dean, who requested a full presentation. When the lights dimmed and the motion tracking model played on the screen, the entire room fell silent. None of them had expected such precision. It was a moment when science met artistry, and everyone felt it. By the end of the presentation, people stared at one another, trying to process what they had seen. Lena concluded with calm honesty. "We believe Michael Jackson developed a unique pattern of movement, a natural algorithm. He may not have created it consciously, but he mastered it so completely that it shaped everything he did on stage." The discovery left the department buzzing. What began as a simple research project had turned into something that felt like uncovering a secret hidden in plain sight. Jackson's genius was already recognized by the world. But now, science was revealing a new layer, one that even dance experts had never understood. And this was only the beginning. The team had discovered the pattern. Now they needed to understand how it worked, and why no one else could replicate it so easily. The research team at Westbridge University had barely finished celebrating their first discovery when a new wave of excitement swept through the lab. Now that they had uncovered a strange pattern in Michael Jackson's movements, they were eager to understand it. They needed to study it carefully, break it down, examine it from every possible angle, and learn what made it so different from anything seen before. The feeling in the lab was almost like opening a treasure chest. You see the jewels inside, but you still need to understand what they are made of. Dr. Lena Armitage came in early the next morning, her mind already filled with questions. She had slept only a few hours, but her curiosity was stronger than her tiredness. She turned on the motion capture system, loaded the files, and waited for her team to arrive. One by one, the graduate students filed in, still buzzing with excitement from the previous day. "Today," Lena said with a smile, "we start breaking down the algorithm." Her words filled the room with a burst of energy. They weren't just studying dance anymore. They were exploring something unique, something that mixed art and science in a way that felt almost magical. The team began by dividing the movements into small sections: footwork, upper body control, timing, rhythm, balance, and micro shifts. Each member focused on a different area so they could gather as much detail as possible. May, who was naturally quiet but sharp-minded, worked on the footwork sequences. She slowed down the videos, frame by frame, until every shift of weight became visible. She noticed something surprising. Jackson's feet did not simply slide backward during the moonwalk. Instead, they followed a rhythmic pattern of pressure changes, almost like tapping a soft beat that only he could hear. Each foot lifted just enough to reduce friction, but not enough for the audience to notice. The steps formed a repeated pattern that matched the graph of the algorithm perfectly. Across the room, Omar analyzed the upper body motion. He expected random sway, because dancers often rely on instinct when performing. But Jackson's upper body showed a clear, intentional design. His shoulders stayed relaxed, his arms moved in smooth arcs, and his chest shifted weight in a controlled, almost mathematical fashion. It was as if every part of his body knew exactly when to move and how far to go. "This is coordinated in ways we didn't expect," Omar said, amazed by the consistency. "It's not just technique. It's a system." Meanwhile, another student, Tara, studied timing. She placed digital markers on the video to track how long each micro-movement lasted. Most dancers had slight delays, small differences in how quickly they reacted or transitioned between moves. But Jackson's timing was unbelievably consistent. He moved from one step to another with the same smoothness every time, even in performances recorded years apart. "It's like he had a built-in metronome," Tara said. "The timing follows a rhythm that stays the same, no matter the choreography." Even more surprising was the discovery made by a visiting fellow named Daniel, who specialized in weight distribution. Using force estimation software, he examined how Jackson shifted his weight during the famous forward lean. Most dancers would rely on external support or special props to perform a lean beyond normal limits. But Jackson's motion showed a combination of core strength, muscle engagement, and incredibly precise foot control. "He knew how to use his entire body as a single unit," Daniel explained. "The force shifts follow a pattern too. It matches the same algorithm we found in the footwork." The team began calling it the MJ movement algorithm. Not in the technical sense of a computer code, but as a way of describing the repeated patterns that shaped his dance. It was invisible to the audience but clear in the data. As the analysis deepened, the team started noticing something else, something even more interesting. Each part of the algorithm did not work alone. The footwork timing matched the upper body rhythm. The micro-delays timed themselves to balance the weight shifts. The small motions worked together like gears in a machine, creating a seamless performance that felt smooth and effortless. "It's all connected," Lena said, leaning closer to the screen. "Every tiny move supports another. That's why it looks so smooth." The discovery grew more impressive as they compared the results to other dancers. They ran the same analysis on videos of performers known for their precision and creativity. Some came close to matching small pieces of Jackson's style, but none displayed the full pattern. No one had the same timing consistency, the same weight control, or the same micro-movements working together like parts of a formula. "Maybe he practiced in a special way," one student suggested. "Or maybe he felt the movement differently," another said. Lena nodded. "It could be both. Some people understand their bodies in ways that can't be taught." Still, Lena wanted more proof. She contacted a friend who worked at a technology company specializing in motion tracking suits. Within a week, the company sent a special set of sensors that could be placed on a performer's body to record movement with extreme accuracy. The team decided to test how ordinary dancers would perform if asked to follow the algorithm. They invited skilled dancers from the university to try simple versions of the pattern. The results were surprising. Even experienced dancers struggled to maintain the same smoothness or timing. They tripped, lost balance, or moved in ways that didn't match the algorithm. One dancer laughed nervously after trying a sequence. "I feel like I'm trying to copy something my body doesn't understand." The data confirmed it. Even the best dancers could not imitate the algorithm naturally. They could replicate parts of it, but not the full pattern. The human body simply wasn't used to moving in that way. "This proves how unique Jackson's movement was," Lena said. "He wasn't just talented, he rewired the way he moved." To explain the algorithm, the team created a visual map that displayed the movement sequence as lines and curves. The map looked almost like a piece of modern art. Every line represented a motion, and every curve represented a shift in weight or timing. The map became the centerpiece of their study, a colorful, detailed portrait of motion, unlike anything they had seen before. When the lab held a small demonstration for faculty members, people were amazed. The map didn't just show dance steps, it revealed a new way of thinking about the human body. As the research continued, the team noticed small hints of something deeper. Jackson's movements weren't just precise, they also had personality. Even when his steps followed a mathematical pattern, the style remained expressive. The algorithm didn't take away the artistic side of dance. Instead, it supported it. "He created structure," May said softly. The more they studied, the more fascinated they became. The MJ movement algorithm seemed to explain why Jackson stood out so much as a performer. He wasn't only dancing, he was interacting with rhythm, balance, and geometry in ways no one had studied before. One evening, when the lab was nearly empty, Lena stared at the screen displaying the algorithm map. She felt a mix of pride and awe. "This is more than science," she whispered. "This is a window into how a person becomes extraordinary." The team had successfully broken down the algorithm. They had identified the small movements, the timing patterns, the weight shifts, and the rhythmic sequences that made up Jackson's style. But their work was not over. Now they wanted to see how the world would react. Could others learn the algorithm? Would dancers want to study it? Would it change how people understood dance? Little did they know, the next phase of their research would reach far beyond their university walls. Dance schools, trainers, and performers from around the world were about to discover what the team had found, and their reactions would shape the next chapter of the story. The discovery of Michael Jackson's movement algorithm quickly moved beyond the quiet walls of Westbridge University. At first, only a few professors and students knew about it. But as more people saw the motion graphs and the strange precision in Jackson's movement pattern, excitement began to spread. Soon, dancers, choreographers, and instructors from different parts of the world started hearing whispers of a new dance science connected to Michael Jackson. It began with a small article published in an academic journal. The article didn't try to sensationalize anything. It simply described how the research team had found unusual consistency and structure in Jackson's movement patterns. But the title caught people's attention. A possible algorithm behind Michael Jackson's movement. Within a week, dance schools began sending emails to Dr. Lena Armitage, asking if they could get more information. Professional dancers wanted to know how the algorithm worked. Some asked for training videos. Others wanted to visit the university. Lena soon realized that people in the dance world were more curious and more determined than she expected. To respond to the growing interest, the team organized a small demonstration day. They invited local dance instructors and students to watch the software recreate Jackson's movements. The room was filled with dancers wearing comfortable clothes, ready to test their skills on the motion tracking mat. As the demonstration began, a large screen displayed Jackson's digital motion lines. The audience watched in amazement as the glowing lines showed the exact path of his steps, the timing of his shoulders, the curve of his balance shifts. The dancers whispered to each other, pointing at the screen and shaking their heads in disbelief. "It looks so simple when he does it," one instructor murmured. "But this looks complicated." Another dancer laughed softly. "I thought I knew how to moonwalk. Maybe I don't." Lena explained to the group how the algorithm worked not in technical terms, but in language dancers could understand. She talked about how Jackson used small steps to reduce friction, how he shifted weight before each movement, how his upper body stayed relaxed, but controlled. She described the micro delays and precise timing that made his moves look smooth and effortless. The dancers listened carefully, their eyes wide with curiosity. Many of them had admired Jackson for years, but this was the first time they were seeing a scientific breakdown of his technique. After the explanation, the group was invited to try a simple version of the algorithm. The dancers stepped onto the motion tracking mat one by one, following a short sequence of footwork and timing copied from the algorithm. At first, the dancers were confident. They were skilled, flexible, and experienced. They assumed they would be able to pick up the pattern quickly. But the moment they started moving, they realized how challenging it was. One dancer tried to follow the sequence, but kept falling out of rhythm. Another lost balance while attempting the weight shift. A hip-hop instructor who had been dancing for more than 20 years looked at the screen, then at his feet, and laughed. "My body is confused," he said. "It doesn't know what that timing is." Even though the algorithm didn't involve anything dangerous, it demanded a type of control and awareness that most dancers were not used to. It required the body to move in small, precise, almost invisible ways. It wasn't just about learning steps, it was about rewiring how the body understood movement. The room filled with mixed reactions. Some dancers were impressed. Others were frustrated. But all of them were fascinated. "This is amazing," a ballet instructor said. "He made dance look easy because he understood movement in a different way." A. After the event, videos from the demonstration leaked onto social media. Clips showed dancers attempting the algorithm, stumbling, laughing, trying again, and shaking their heads in amazement. Some viewers found it funny. Others were inspired. Within days, the videos went viral. Dance schools across the world started discussing the algorithm. Some schools in Tokyo added small classes dedicated to studying Jackson's movement patterns. In Los Angeles, an instructor began teaching warm-up exercises inspired by the micro-movements in the algorithm. In France, a contemporary dance teacher shared the academic article with her students and encouraged them to think about movement scientifically. As the conversation grew, curiosity turned into determination. Many dancers wanted to prove that they could learn the algorithm. They saw it as a challenge, a chance to show their skill. Dance groups posted videos of themselves trying to copy the movement patterns. The results were entertaining, and sometimes surprisingly close, but no one could match the smoothness and timing seen in the original data. A well-known dance academy in New York even started a full workshop titled Understanding the MJ Algorithm. The workshop attracted dancers from different countries. Some were confident they could master the pattern. Others came simply to learn something new. During the workshop, the instructors used slow-motion videos of Jackson performing famous routines. They paused each frame to show how the feet aligned, how the knees bent, how the shoulders stayed relaxed while the legs moved sharply. Students watched with fascination, taking notes, and practicing small sequences repeatedly. But the more they practiced, the more they realized how difficult it was. The algorithm demanded tiny adjustments that most dancers did not pay attention to. It required dancers to feel balance differently, to move from their core, to shift weight with extreme precision. One student, after practicing for hours, sighed and said, "I knew he was great. I just didn't know he was this great." Another student added, "This is like learning a new language." As dancers around the world continued trying, the reactions were mixed. Some embraced the challenge with excitement. Others joked about how impossible it felt. But one thing was clear. The discovery had captured the imagination of the global dance community. Even famous choreographers joined the discussion. A popular dance influencer posted a video explaining why Jackson's algorithm was so hard to copy. He said, "Most dancers learn steps. Jackson learned structure. He built movement from the inside out, not the outside in." 17. Workside. End quote. Meanwhile, at Westbridge University, the research team watched the global reaction with amazement. They had never expected their academic study to reach dance studios in so many countries. Every day, they received messages from dancers who wanted to collaborate, learn, or simply share their attempts at the algorithm. One day, Lena opened an email from a dance school in Brazil. The message was enthusiastic and full of curiosity. They wanted to send one of their most talented dancers to visit the lab and attempt the algorithm under scientific observation. The dancer was known for his unusual precision and ability to mimic complex routines. Lena agreed to the idea. She felt that observing dancers in person could help the team understand whether the algorithm was learnable or whether it was something unique to Jackson alone. As she prepared the lab for the dancer's visit, Lena couldn't help feeling excited. Up until now, dancers had only tried simple parts of the pattern. No one had attempted the full sequence under the watch of advanced motion capture technology. What would happen? Would the dancer struggle like the others? Or would he surprise them? Lena didn't know the answer. But she sensed that something important was coming. Something that would take their research into a new chapter. The world had tried, stumbled, and learned. And now, the first serious attempt to match the algorithm was about to begin. The excitement inside the Human Motion Laboratory reached a new level when the dancer from Brazil finally arrived. His name was Rafael, a quiet but confident young man in his early 20s. He had trained since childhood, practicing everything from street dance to classical techniques, and was known in his country for his smooth footwork and uncanny ability to learn complex routines with impressive accuracy. Many people online believed that if anyone could come close to Michael Jackson's movement pattern, it was him. When Rafael stepped into the lab, he looked around with wide eyes. The advanced screens, glowing motion sensors, and digital equipment amazed him. He had never been inside a research facility before. He carried himself with calm energy. And although he seemed slightly nervous, he also appeared focused and determined. Dr. Lena Armitage greeted him warmly. The team gathered around as she explained how the motion capture suit worked. It was a lightweight outfit covered with small sensors that recorded body movement in all directions. When worn correctly, the suit turned the dancer into a moving 3D model on the computer screen. "You'll see your movements appear on the display," Lena explained. "Don't worry about matching the algorithm perfectly on the first try. Just relax and do your best." Rafael nodded politely. He wasn't the type to boast. He simply adjusted the suit, tightened the straps, and stood in the center of the room, ready for whatever came next. The team projected the MJ movement algorithm on the screen. Smooth lines traced Jackson's steps, showing the signature rhythm, micro delays, and weight shifts. The dancers who had attempted this before had found it difficult to follow, but Rafael studied the screen with deep attention, almost as if he were memorizing the movement with his eyes. When the music started softly in the background, Rafael closed his eyes for a moment. Then, without warning, he began. The first thing the researchers noticed was his balance. He moved with surprising control, matching the weight distribution patterns more closely than anyone they had tested before. His footwork was light and precise, and although he wasn't perfect, he seemed to understand the rhythm of the algorithm in a way that felt natural. May whispered, "Look at the timing on his foot pressure. It's very close." Omar checked the graph. "Closer than anyone we've tested." The room fell silent as Rafael continued. He executed the moonwalk-inspired steps with a level of smoothness that made the digital lines on the screen almost match Jackson's original pattern. The micro-delays appeared naturally in his movement, something that had confused many dancers before. Somehow, Rafael moved as if he had been practicing this pattern for years, even though he had only seen it today. When he finished the first sequence, Raphael let out a deep breath. He looked slightly surprised at himself, as if he had felt something new inside the movement. The team applauded softly, not because he had matched the algorithm perfectly, but because he had come closer than anyone else in the world. That was remarkable, Lena said. Would you be willing to try the full sequence? Yes, Raphael answered simply. His calm tone carried a quiet determination. The full sequence was much more difficult. It included multiple steps of footwork, upper body flow, shifts in tempo, and a short glide inspired by the lean pattern. Most dancers who had tried the full sequence lost balance halfway through or missed the timing completely. But Raphael approached it patiently. Before starting again, he watched the algorithm lines on the screen, moving his shoulders and feet lightly, as if his body were syncing to an internal rhythm. Then he began the full sequence. This time, the room felt different. There was a sense of suspense, almost like everyone was holding their breath. Raphael moved with grace and intention. His steps were sharp, yet smooth. His arms flowed in controlled curves. His shoulders stayed relaxed. And most impressively, he shifted his weight in a pattern very close to Jackson's. The digital model on the screen lit up with green indicators, signals that the movement matched the algorithm within a certain range. The team leaned forward. Their eyes locked on the display. He's doing it, May whispered, stunned. He's actually doing it, Tara added, touching her forehead in disbelief. Omar checked the graph again. The timing match is incredible. Not exact, nothing can be, but this is the closest we've seen. Raphael continued the sequence without breaking focus. He wasn't rushed, nor did he hesitate. His body moved as if he had discovered a pathway that other dancers didn't notice. The rhythm felt natural to him, and his movements aligned with the algorithm almost instinctively. When he finished, he took another quiet breath and looked at the researchers with a small, humble smile. Was it okay? He asked softly. The room erupted in excitement. The researchers clapped. Some of them laughed with joy. Others stood up in disbelief. Lena stepped forward, her face glowing. Raphael, that was more than okay. You just made history. They replayed the recording on the large screen. The digital representation of his movement appeared side by side with Jackson's algorithm. The similarities were astonishing. The curves of the movement almost overlapped. The timing gaps were nearly identical. The weight distribution tracked nearly the same pattern. It's learnable, Daniel said, shaking his head. This proves it. The algorithm is not impossible. It's just extremely advanced. The discovery changed everything. Raphael had shown that an ordinary person, well, an extraordinarily skilled dancer, could learn the movement algorithm if they trained hard enough and understood their body in a special way. News spread quickly. Dance communities across the world celebrated Raphael's achievement. Social media filled with clips of his performance in the lab. Many dancers felt inspired. They realized that Michael Jackson's movement wasn't untouchable, it was simply on a level that required deep study and commitment. Raphael became an overnight sensation. But he stayed humble, telling reporters, I just followed the rhythm. I tried to feel the timing the same way he did. His visit to Westbridge University did not end immediately. He stayed for several days, working with the research team. They recorded more of his movements, tested how he learned the algorithm, and even asked him to explain how he interpreted the sequences. Raphael said something that surprised everyone. It feels like a story, he explained. Each small move leads to another, like a sentence that flows into the next. If you think of them separately, it's confusing, but if you think of them as one long story, it becomes easier. Lena loved that explanation. It made perfect sense. The algorithm wasn't just steps, it was a pattern, a rhythm, a continuous flow. Before leaving, Raphael gave the team a heartfelt thank you. You showed me something new, he said. You showed me how to feel movement differently. And after he left, something remarkable began happening in dance schools worldwide. Teachers updated their training programs. Students began practicing micro-movements, weight shifts, and timing drills inspired by the algorithm. Workshops appeared in different countries, focused on algorithmic movement training. People didn't want to copy Jackson. They wanted to learn from him, learn how he understood movement, rhythm, and balance. The discovery of Raphael's success didn't just prove the algorithm was learnable. It opened a door to a new era of dance, one where art and science worked together. And little did they know, the world was about to feel the cultural impact of this discovery in a way no one had expected. The weeks following Raphael's impressive performance were filled with excitement, curiosity, and a sense of wonder. The discovery that someone could come so close to matching Michael Jackson's movement algorithm changed everything. It didn't just inspire dancers, it sparked interest across different fields. Scientists, artists, teachers, and even technology companies began paying attention. What started as a small university project had grown into something that touched people around the world. But the biggest change happened slowly, like a wave spreading across oceans, reaching new places each day. At Westbridge University, the research team continued studying Raphael's recordings. They replayed the motion graphs countless times, comparing his movements with Jackson's. They discovered that even though Raphael could imitate the algorithm, his version had its own personality. His steps had a different softness. His timing had tiny variations that reflected his own style. This made Lena realize something important. The algorithm was not just a set of rules. It was a foundation, a structure, that allowed artists to express themselves. Jackson had built it in his own way, and Raphael had added his own touch to it. "It's like learning a musical instrument," Lena said during one of the team meetings. Two people can play the same notes, but each person adds their own emotion. Everyone agreed. The algorithm was a new language of movement, and each dancer who studied it could speak it in their own voice. Meanwhile, dance teachers around the world embraced the discovery with open arms. Studios in New York, Paris, Mumbai, Seoul, and Johannesburg created new classes centered around micro-movements and balance awareness. Instead of teaching big, dramatic steps, they focused on small details. Tiny shifts of the foot, gentle changes in weight, smooth transitions between positions. Students quickly realized that these new exercises helped them feel more connected to their bodies. They learned how to move with control instead of force. They discovered how a simple step could become powerful when done with precision. In Japan, a dance school introduced a program called algorithmic flow training. The students practiced every morning, moving slowly and carefully through sequences inspired by the algorithm. Their instructor explained that the goal wasn't to copy Jackson, but to learn how to feel movement the way he did. In Europe, a famous choreographer created a performance inspired by the algorithm. Instead of trying to dance like Jackson, the performance celebrated how the algorithm revealed hidden patterns in movement. Audiences watched with fascination as dancers moved in ways that felt both artistic and scientific, both natural and surprising. Technology companies also became interested. A company that specialized in virtual reality approached the university about creating an interactive experience. They wanted people to step into a virtual room where they could see the algorithm around them, moving like lines of light. Users could walk into the patterns, try to follow them, and watch how their bodies responded. The idea excited the research team. Lena believed this type of technology could help dancers understand movement better. She imagined a world where anyone, no matter their skill level, could experience the algorithm in a safe, fun, interactive way. Even scientists from unrelated fields began examining the findings. Biologists wondered how the human nervous system could learn such precise patterns. Psychologists studied how Jackson's intense focus and creativity may have shaped his natural algorithm. Engineers looked at how the movement sequence could help design better robots that moved more gracefully. The discovery even reached people who weren't dancers or scientists. Many everyday individuals were inspired simply by the story. They admired how Jackson had unknowingly created something so unique, and how decades later, people were still discovering new layers of his brilliance. Some saw the discovery as a reminder that humans are capable of incredible things. Others felt motivated to pursue their own creative passions with more effort and curiosity. One of the most surprising effects came from the younger generation. Children who had never heard of Michael Jackson before began watching his old performances. They studied his smooth steps, his flawless spins, and his effortless glides. Some became fans overnight. Others started dreaming of becoming dancers, inspired by the combination of art and science. Raphael's story became especially popular. His humble attitude and dedication touched many people. He returned to Brazil and opened a small workshop called Rhythm of Precision. Young dancers visited him daily, eager to learn from someone who had been part of the historic experiment. Raphael always reminded them that the algorithm wasn't about copying Jackson, it was about understanding the body deeply and appreciating the beauty of movement. Feel the rhythm in your steps, he told his students. Movement is like breath. It should come from inside you. Back in the United States, Westbridge University became a hub of creativity. Professors from different departments collaborated on new projects inspired by the algorithm. A physics professor designed a study on balance and friction. A computer science team created a program that translated movement into colorful patterns. An art student began painting images inspired by the motion graphs. The lab itself changed too. The walls were decorated with motion patterns, photographs of Jackson performing, and snapshots of Raphael's attempts. The screens displayed glowing lines that represented movement, turning the room into a breathtaking blend of science and art. One afternoon, Lena stepped into the lab after everyone had left. She stood in front of the main screen, watching the familiar lines of Jackson's algorithm flow like gentle waves. She couldn't help smiling. She remembered the first day they discovered the strange patterns. She remembered the confusion, the amazement, the excitement. Back then, no one imagined the discovery would travel so far or inspire so many people. Now, the MJ movement algorithm had become more than a scientific curiosity. It had become a global cultural moment, connecting people across continents. Dance schools updated their curriculums. Researchers wrote new studies. Artists created new forms of expression. And ordinary people found joy in learning something new about a performer they admired. Lena realized the discovery had changed her too. It reminded her why she fell in love with science, because science had the power to reveal hidden beauty in things people took for granted. She felt grateful for the journey, grateful for her team, grateful for Raphael's courage, and grateful for the chance to learn something extraordinary. As she turned off the lights and prepared to leave, she whispered softly, "Thank you, Michael. You taught us more than we ever expected." The story of the algorithm continued to grow, inspiring new studies, new performances, and new dreams. And through it all, the world gained a deeper appreciation for the connection between creativity and science. Michael Jackson's legacy had always been amazing, but now it had expanded into a new dimension. People no longer saw his dance moves as just entertainment. They understood that his body moved with a kind of natural intelligence, a structure that blended rhythm, physics, balance, and emotion. He hadn't just danced. He had created a language. And thanks to the work of curious scientists and passionate dancers, that language would continue to live, to grow, and to inspire for generations to come.